Hello, welcome back to the All Out Soccer Podcast. Myself, Jeremy Goldstein, and my co-host, Joseph McBride, we're two football fans talking about soccer. We focus on a fusion of the MLS, the U.S. men's and women's soccer teams, and the build-up to the 2026 World Cup. Getting closer to the start of the MLS season, getting closer to the next U.S. training camp. Joe, how are we doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Very delighted that Liverpool were able to get a clean sheet for once in the Champions League, although they lost another defender. But away from that and the turbulent times for that, I'm excited for MLS to come back. And obviously, with each week that we do this, we're a week closer to the World Cup.
Yeah, I'm sure you saw Hugo Ekitike commenting on one of Ryan Gravenberch posts calling him Mark Gahey. You see that?
Yeah, of course. The one that fell through.
Yeah, it was funny stuff. MLS transfers are coming thick and fast. We're going to start off talking about that. Then we're going to get into a conversation about Mauricio Pochettino amid some noise linking him back to the likes of Tottenham Hotspur amid their horrific form. After a little break, we're going to talk about the new MLS schedule, the new format, the new Saturday and Sunday games, as well as a look at some of the top fixtures at the start of the season. We're going to add our Make a Case segment for the U.S. men's national team. Thank God me and Joe keep picking different players, and we're going to conclude with a bit of World Cup news. But yeah, Joe, we're going to get into some MLS transfers to start. I have a list prepared here, but what have you thought just loosely of this transfer window so far as a whole?
I mean, as a whole, I think MLS has been quite exciting. I think there's been some good additions. Obviously, Miami have definitely the front foot at the moment, but been some really interesting moves. And I think the acquisition or the addition of the cash trade came too late. Like it should have been here a long time ago, but it's made the league way more exciting. And of course, I think each year, like the pool of US talent specifically just gets better and better, and seeing them linked with all of these European clubs is exciting, is only going to benefit soccer in this country moving forward. But obviously January is usually a quite quiet time. It feels like this one's been pretty active, so it's been exciting.
It's been active, and yeah, but the one thing that's been missing is there's kind of been that last winter, we had a bunch of these $15 million and more transfers from Europe directly to the US, and we haven't quite have that. Some of those moves have come directly from South America. Some of those moves have been, veteran players coming on free or low or smaller transfer fees, but with bigger names. Just a little more unconventional, I thought, than last year, which looked like it was setting a precedent for these expensive moves, and then the likes of Emmanuel Latte Lath are only okay, and the team spends so much money, and you know how it works out. Anyway, we're going to start with some outgoings, and we're going to talk about a confirmed one first. Alex Freeman, Orlando City, the young U.S. men's national team fullback. He's on his way to Villarreal for $4 million up front, plus up to $3 million in add-ons. Joe, you know who Alex Freeman's father is, do you?
Of course.
Just wanted to make sure. He had 6 goals and 3 assists in 29 MLS games last year. Again, this is a player who will be most likely a backup at the World Cup at fullback positions, can play on both sides. Villarreal have a bunch of recent MLS players. Tayon Buchanan is there. Daniel Osane is there. And now they have a young American. Just very quick reaction to this one, Joe. Do you think this is a good move for him?
I think it's a great move long term. I think short term, if he's not going to be playing between now and when the World Cup's going to be on, if Sergio Dest is fit, he's probably not going to start. But obviously, it's a bit of a risk short term in terms of keeping up those appearances. But at the same time, as much as I'm sure he wants to be involved and probably will be involved in that World Cup squad, you can't just make your career decisions based on that short term window. I think it's a great move for him. He deserves it as well. I know I gave him some stick a few months ago and saying he wasn't quite at the right level. He's really, really proved me wrong since then. And I hope he does all the best over there.
My just thought is an attacking, energetic fullback. I don't know if I'd want that player going to Spain. I think Marcelinho, who's currently the coach at Villarreal, is one of the most innovative coaches in Spain. They're one of the highest scoring teams in Spain. I think they are the highest scoring team outside of the big 3 Spanish sides. Villarreal were just eliminated from the Champions League, so little less chance to see him in some interesting fixtures. If they were still around, I would really, really be banging the drum on this, but it's not the worst one. And I certainly like it more than Diego Luna's options, which look like Luna is linked to a move to either Espanyol or Celta Vigo. Doesn't appear that Real Salt Lake have any interest in selling, which makes sense. They view him as a face of the franchise and potential face of the league going forward. A domestic player staying in the MLS on the U.S. men's national team obviously racks up minutes at competitions like the Gold Cup and whatnot. He would probably go for just under 10 million. Espanyol or surprise team this year in La Liga. Celta Vigo, my thing is Luca de la Torre went to Celta Vigo a few years ago, played there for a few seasons, got minutes, and now is bouncing around the MLS for $300K. He's gone to Charlotte. I don't know if that's what we want Luna to slip into. I think if you're not at a top tier Spanish side, first of all, you're not going to be making that much money. And I don't know if it just has the upside. I don't want these players going to La Liga. I just don't think it's a very exciting league, especially for forward and attacking players. That's my opinion. You like Luna a lot.
I do. And I get a lot of things wrong on this podcast. I mean, my infamous dark horses of Atlanta being one of the worst calls of all time. But I did say a few weeks ago that he fits the La Liga style of play, and seeing those teams express interest, I think could benefit him. But like you said, no disrespect to them. They're both fantastic clubs, of course. Obviously, Celta Vigo being a team that's allowed Allende to go to Inter Miami as well. Like, they have some good players, but it's not the top tier. And it's quite easy, I think, to get lost in those teams. I think Villarreal is definitely a higher profile club than both of those. So Freeman kind of gets away with that one. I don't think Real Salt Lake will let him go. I don't think he should move before the World Cup, really. Maybe if he makes the World Cup squad, he'll be on display and could get a better move if he's there. But yeah, I don't see him moving. I don't probably think he should.
Then we have Ricardo Pepe, who, as of an hour ago, we're recording on Thursday, talks started an impasse between him and from moving from PSV to Fulham. Fulham wants £30 million. PSV won £30 million. I think Fulham are offering $28 million. If it's really that close, it'll probably get figured out. West Ham have also emerged as a surprise target for him. Obviously, they just signed former NYCFC striker Tati Castellanos. So they also have Callum Wilson kicking about. So Pepe's going to have a hard time getting playing time at either of these teams, especially considering he's injured. Obviously, this is a move for the long term. West Ham might not be in the Premier League next year, so I don't think either of us are too jazzed about that. Fulham, he would be the long-term striker. Their current top option is Raul Jimenez, who's getting on in years and will not be there forever. So I think that's a better move long term, and he'll find minutes. I mean, in the cups, and Fulham are, he'll come off the bench, but I'm tepid on that one.
Yeah, I think Fulham's a really good fit for him, to be honest. Obviously, he's injured right now, so he's not going to be playing straight away if the move happens. It looks like it's looking pretty progressive. And it's a decent fee that PSV will get for him, certainly more than they paid to acquire him in the first place. But Fulham's a good club. Like you said, Jimenez is getting on a little bit. He's not going to be around forever. He's been in great form in the last couple of seasons, but it depends how long that's going to last. And Fulham's a good club for that. I think Marco Silva is a great head coach. Also, one to think about maybe how long he'll be there if he goes to another club. Like, he's impressing there. But I think Pepe going there and having obviously Anthony Robinson too, I think would be a really, really good move. I'd love to see it happen, but I guess we'll wait and see.
Considering how prolific Pepe is off the bench, kind of in those limited minutes as he has for PSV, stuck behind veterans like Luke de Jong and Guus Til and other players the last 2 years, he's been great in a super sub role. So, I mean, that could guarantee him, at least 25, 30 minutes a game, which is better than nothing. And that might be a role he's preparing for with the U.S. men's national team anyway. All right, just going to rapid fire through some other ones. Starting with the Houston Dynamo, we have Mateusz Borges, who spent last season at Cruz Azul, obviously MLS veteran. He's moving to Houston in a DP slot, moved close to $10 million. He'll also join Hector Herrera, who's coming back to the MLS. The Timo Werner move to San Jose has been confirmed. Their attack is just completely different than last season. No Joseph Martinez, no Christian Espinoza. And now we have news that Chicho Arango is returning to his native Colombia. He's playing for Atlético Nacional, a team who are based in Medellin. Shout out Entourage, if anyone has seen that show. And also Aman Pellegrino is now at San Diego. So this team, completely different. Who's going to be playing next to Timo Werner is still yet to be decided. We think San Jose has some exciting players, but they've lost a lot of them. So we're going to see what that team looks like next season. Cole Bassett, he's on the move. He's going to go to Portland. This Portland team, it's kind of mediocre. Just snuck into the playoffs last season. Bassett, once very talented young U.S. prospect. Another former talented U.S. prospect, Ethan Horvath. He will replace Carlos Coronel as the goalkeeper for the New York Red Bulls. Horvath was playing for Sheffield Wednesday, who, fun fact, are on like -9 points in the championship right now, because not only do they have the worst team in the league, they have like a 25-point deduction, which is insane. and it could get more. So they might go down with negative points. But shout out to anyone who's still playing for Sheffield Wednesday, considering the circumstances. But yeah, just a little roundup, and there's going to be more to come. It's January 29th. The next few days, there will be more moves.
Yeah, and I think one other one that I'm finding really interesting is João Klaus going from St. Louis over to LA Galaxy. Obviously, LA Galaxy had a nightmare season last year, and Ricky Puig is, when's he going to come back? They got rid of Jovic. They brought in Christian Ramirez, who I was quite excited for at the beginning. Didn't really amount to much, but yeah, Klaus, obviously proven MLS striker. Hopefully, we'll get them firing back into contention at least, because I feel like MLS is better when Galaxy are competing.
MLS is better when Galaxy are competing. All right, we're going to get into a full MLS preview most likely the next few weeks. I'm excited about Houston. I think they're going to be a team to watch, especially if Jack McGlynn returns to health. We're going to obviously do our dark horses and whatnot, and hopefully be a little more, have some better picks than last season, but knowing us, maybe not. We're going to talk about our good friend Weston McKennie, who's been playing very, very well at Juventus in a much more central upfront role. What do you think of this recent change, Joe?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of positions he hasn't played in now. He's been very versatile over his career. It's interesting. I mean, the head coach, Luciano Spalletti, likes him playing there. And obviously, if your coach likes where you're playing and likes your involvement, that's great for your career. It's an interesting one with McKennie because he's been at Juventus for quite a while now. And on this podcast, we've spoke several times about him being linked with an exit, even before the Club World Cup last summer. It looked like he was going to be leaving, but didn't. He's gone through different eras with different coaches and whether he's in or out of favour. But now Spalletti believes he can genuinely be a number 9. He was really impressed with him after a 3-0 win against Napoli in Serie A. And he said McKennie is a perfect central striker. He fights, he's strong in the air, and he can jump high. He plays to get results because he makes decisions. Would be a perfect striker. His deal with Juventus actually expires at the end of this season, but he is in talks to sign an extension. But yeah, going from midfield and sometimes playing like a wing back or even a wing role and now number 9. I mean, is there anything he can't do? It's exciting for Poch and potentially for plans as well.
It is. And he's can provide width, which is just so surprising because I never characterize Weston McKennie as the fastest player. In some games, he's just completely on the touchline. And some players you watch Juventus and he's centrally. Look, they have a couple of strikers. They have Jonathan David. They have Lois Openda, who they spent a lot of money on. They have Kenan Yildiz, who's kind of like an inside forward. So they like sometimes, usually it's like a front two is McKennie and Yildiz, and then one striker up front. And of course, they had Dusan Vlahovic, who is currently out. So he's not going to play central forward. He's not going to play number 9 for Juventus, but he's more 9 in practice. It presents Pochettino not with the dilemma. It presents him, in my opinion, with just this added boost of versatility. The stupidest thing he could do is play McKennie in a midfield too, which he should not. And he also should not play him at wing back. Just have him up front. Have him up front. Have him be in the free role. Have him have space. Pulisic's going to be on the other side, and there's going to be a forward in front of him. He has a wing back underneath who's going to be giving him that depth. That's going to be Serginho Dest. I need him to be that right winger for the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I mean, obviously, we speak a lot about strikers and the order at which they should be in changes. It seems like every single month. Balogun being one of the guys we expect to start. Haji Wright obviously making a case this season, especially at the end of last year. Another few players flying around, including Josh Sargent, who may not like this news. But yeah, if he's an option there and he can play in all these roles, it just boosts his chances of playing even more. So I haven't got a problem with it. I'm sure he won't mind being further up the field. Usually players are being told to go back.
Yep. And just to get into some quick Josh Sargent news, thank you, Joe, for the segue. Yeah, it's not good for him at Norwich City right now, who don't want to sell him. Norwich have hit a couple of wins. I want to say Norwich, his current club, were in the relegation zone for much of the last month or two. A few wins under a new manager have seen them climb up, thanks to shout out one of our MLS faves, Ali Ahmed, who's been playing very well for Norwich since making that move. Sargent isn't playing. He isn't training. He's completely removed from the team. But Norwich don't want to sell. They want close to $30 million from Toronto FC, who have been linked, $30 million US, a move that Toronto don't want to make. He wants to come back to North America because he's recently had a child and he wants to be closer to family. He is an American. It's a bizarre one. He's had some link to some Premier League clubs, but I just think he's stuck. Unfortunately, he's marooned. It's bad timing. Everything is bad timing. Like, Norwich don't care about the World Cup for him. They wanted to get a profit. I mean, they don't have that many ways of generating revenue, so you can't really blame them.
Yeah, it's definitely a stalemate. I mean, when I heard about the Premier interest and then saw that he kind of snubbed it, I was quite surprised. Obviously, it's a massive opportunity, especially when Norwich could potentially be going to the third division, let alone playing in the first. But then with the family news, totally get it. He's obviously making sure or doing all he can to force through that move. Norwich don't appear to be playing ball, and he's even been banished to the youth squad. He's not involved at all with the first team at the moment, which isn't uncommon when these kind of situations arise. But I hope he can get his move. Obviously, as a Toronto fan, it would be great to have some sort of attacking talent in a team that's struggling all the time. But it doesn't look like it's going to get resolved. So, he's made a gamble. He's going to try and push through that move. But if he doesn't, and he doesn't get integrated in the squad at all, he could face not playing a minute.
Yeah, and I don't. This is truthfully one where you throw your hands up and you say, I don't know what the best option is at this point, because I don't think he's going to be able to leave. I mean, maybe he can go on loan somewhere is the only thing I'm thinking, where the other team covers all of his salary and pays him a fee. And I think for Norwich, that's the best you're going to get. And hopefully he has a good loan spell and you can reevaluate the summer. And for Sargent, I don't think that loan move's going to come to an MLS team with the season not starting for another month and him having missed training camp, which has been ongoing. I think it's going to come if he goes to another first division team in Europe, maybe in Germany, something like that. All right, Joe, we're going to conclude. We need to get this Mauricio Pochettino bit in. We were just talking about McKennie. We were just talking about Sargent. Talk to me about some Poch links back to some European teams.
Yeah, so Poch has been forever linked with Tottenham ever since leaving. The fans loved him. He loved the club. Obviously got them to a European final. Things fell away the following season, and Daniel Levy has never been forgiven for sacking him, even though they weren't doing well at about 11th in the Premier League. Hasn't worked in the experiment since then, and their new hire, Thomas Frank, is not very popular at Tottenham. They're doing well in the Champions League, like quite a few English teams are, but in the Premier League and domestically, absolutely not. Fans are desperate to have him back. And that's the thing. There's so many coaching changes in the world at the moment that sometimes teams and fans especially want someone out, but there's no direct replacement. Now, usually looking to international coaches is a good way of doing it. Maybe not in a World Cup year. He's also been linked to Manchester United, I might add, who sacked Ruben Amorim, and they've got Michael Carrick in as an interim. He's been a long time linked with Manchester United. And I do believe that he is going to look to go back into coaching, club football again very soon, whether that's after the World Cup or not. But these links are going to continue to come. And obviously, with teams being hesitant to make rash changes mid-season, let's say Frank does see out the year, I won't be surprised if they approach Pochettino, and due to the relationship they already have, it's not going to be something that he's just going to ignore. So definitely one to watch for US fans.
It's one to watch, but you have to then think about what is the job that you wanted Pochettino to take. He can't leave right now. I mean, it would just be a big stain on his reputation in terms of his reliability, in terms of, is this someone we can hire who will then always leave at the bigger opportunity? So he can't leave right now. He's under no obligation to stay with the U.S. men's national team long term. He took this job for the pageantry of being the coach of the home nation at an upcoming World Cup, which is a massive, massive platform. And if he fails, he does have this sort of inherent alibi of this is the U.S. men's national team. Nothing good ever happens to the U.S. men's national team. And me not winning is not somehow representative of my career at all. So it's kind of a no-fail sort of situation. And if for whatever reason he leads the U.S. to a quarterfinal, this is a big glowing plus in the Pochettino cap. I think he's 100% leaving after the World Cup. It does hurt him that this World Cup will trickle into July, which kind of puts him out of the hiring cycle. So I don't know if he's going to be able to get a good job right away. Might have to wait until the fall. But in my opinion, this is not a long-term home for Pochettino. Even if he leads the U.S. on some magical run, this is a short-term stop solution. And for the U.S., this is their biggest tournament in years. It's fine if he does well for one tournament and then leaves. I would have no problem or qualms with that. And yeah, that Tottenham job is open. I mean, he's going to walk into a team without European football, with a bunch of older players, younger players, no cohesion, no prime age targets, having spent a ton of money and probably in the FFP doghouse. But it wouldn't surprise me if he gets that job, or he, goes back to Spain. The Atletico Madrid job looks like it's going to be opening up pretty soon as well. So he'll have no shortage of suitors considering his long-term reputation.
Yeah, I mean, you said everything bang on there. There's not much to add, really. But the fact that I think it was very clear that he was hired to lead this team through a really big moment, like you said. Yep. He wasn't expected to be a decade-long hire or tenure at the US. But yeah, also fair points about Spurs. I'm a bit concerned if he did go back there, which something that might stop it happening. Is one of the reasons that he fell out with the board in the first place is that after they got to the European final, he wanted investment in the transfer window and to strengthen that team, and he didn't receive it. And given some of Tottenham's recent activity and recent issues again with recruitment, doesn't seem like that's changed, even though Levy has now gone.
Yeah, it's just a shame that Spurs' biggest moment in terms of on-field production coincided with their move to a new stadium when they were extremely financially cash-strapped. But it's not Pochettino's fault. I think he made bread out of wine, or wine out of bread, excuse me, however the expression goes. And here we are now. All right, we're going to go to a quick break, and me and Joe are going to return with some more U.S. men's national team talk and some MLS scheduling bits. Hey, if you want to get involved in the conversation, shoot us an email at either jeremy.goldstein@reachplc.com or joseph.mcbride@reachplc.com. Please engage by subscribing to the show wherever you get podcasts and leave us a like while you're at it. That's the end of part 1 of this week's show, but stick around for part 2 just after this break. MLS is changing the schedule a little bit, not too much. I mean, we still have every game every week. There's some midweek games. They're mostly on the weekends. There's going to be primetime games. There's going to be slots where there's more games. It's still mostly on Apple. You know the drill. But there's some changes. Talk to me.
Yeah, so along with Sunday night soccer, which obviously MLS introduced last year, and it was really successful, I think, in the primetime slot, even though it did clash with a lot of other leagues and big games. They're now introducing a Walmart Saturday Showdown. Of course it's branded. Of course it's sponsored. Mm-hmm. You know how it is. It sounds exciting. And essentially, they're going to be focusing on a marquee fixture of that week, of that game week. But instead of the usual style where, you load up Apple TV and you load either 360 and they kind of go back and forth, or just the game stream, this is going to be a little bit more substantial. It does appear as though they want to create a better viewing experience for the fans, whether that's going to be halftime content, pre-game content, even a post-game analysis. Either way, I think this is a massive, massive win, and especially when the full schedule change comes into effect from next year, and there's several months of the year where there is no clashes. This could be a really, really good thing to boost the MLS profile and boost exposure. And this is something I've wanted for a while. I love the coverage over here in America, but there's one thing I've really missed when it comes to soccer, and it is that kind of, NFL kind of style analysis that you get with the primetime games. It doesn't really happen here. You go on your streaming site, and the game is available maybe 5 minutes before it starts. And then as soon as it's over, you get a load of music on Peacock or whatever. And that's it. Whereas I think this is going to be a really, really good way to educate some fans, but also just provide a bit more of a wholesome experience for those that are already consuming soccer.
Yeah, and look, the template was there with CBS Sports and how they cover the Champions League in terms of the elongated preview and post-game show that allows room for that sort of free-form entertainment with a mix of education. I mean, you can't watch that show and not hear Thierry Henry give a deep analysis of some teams' defensive structure. To start off, they're starting with a variety of games that, super headline. I mean, the first one is LAFC versus Inter Miami. I mean, you can make a case, the two biggest teams in the MLS right now in terms of popularity. Obviously, there was a whole transfer saga with Dennis Bouanga to potentially leaving LAFC for Inter Miami, a move he apparently wanted. I think that's a great fixture to kick off the season. We have some more coming up that are very interesting. Columbus versus Chicago on March 7th. I mean, I think Chicago was the surprise team of 2025. Obviously, it didn't translate to the playoffs, but this is a team that came out of nowhere. And then Columbus is without Wilfred Nancy, or maybe not for long. I mean, maybe he'll be back. Obviously, his stint at Celtic was very short-lived, and Columbus reloaded this offseason, and they should be very interesting to watch. And then we have the LA Galaxy versus Sporting Kansas City on March 14th, Dejan Joveljic reunion part 2. And obviously the Galaxy there is a dove that has just landed on my window. Excuse me.
Okay, well, that's the outtakes.
And the Galaxy, obviously. Are they going to be good this year? Who knows? Oh my God, my heart rate is just through the roof.
I think it's going to be good. Like, I like this change. I like this addition. All the games are available anyway, so why not invest a little bit more into making at least one of those matchups a bit better for fans?
Yeah, I completely agree. In terms of these games, do you think there'll be success? Sorry, excuse me. Do you think there'll be success in terms of viewership, more heightened success in terms of viewership? Do you think this will create those kind of narratives that are buzzy? Obviously, you saw that there's some Sunday night games last year, especially if Miami were playing. All of a sudden, there's a lot of eyeballs on whatever road team they were visiting. Do you think this will lead to a success, like commercial success?
Yeah, I think it'll be a slow burner. I don't think you can expect instant success immediately. So they just need to make sure it's a good product. And having LAFC and Miami as, the inaugural game for that slot is as good as it gets. I said last year, I think that's probably what they were hoping the MLS Cup final was going to be. Yeah. But it's a great way to kick it off. I think people aren't going to change their routines overnight, but as long as they kind of make sure they eradicate any kind of mistakes early and make sure it's a really good product, by the time, like I said, that there is no conflict with, the NFL or the NBA, the NHL or baseball, there'll be a conflict. But if they can make sure it's good, then I'm sure it will grow in those months. But either way, it's just nice to see that they're trying, they're investing, and they're experimenting. Of course, commercially, that's the goal. But at the same time, I think having these marquee fixtures highlighted a little bit more is going to be great for the league and great for fans.
And just to look at some other fixtures from the first week MLS kickoff weekend in late February, around the February 20th and the 21st. First match of the season is St. Louis and Charlotte, kicking off the season. Charlotte obviously coming off one of the best seasons in club history that fizzled out in the playoffs, but be interesting to see how the team looks next season. Vancouver and Real Salt Lake. Vancouver have lost some forwards up front, but they'll still bring back Thomas Muller. Excited to see what Muller looks like from the start of the season. Definitely a different sort of off-season structure for him. And then coming up right after that, we have Galaxy versus NYCFC and DC versus Philadelphia. Two teams completely opposite directions. DC have added Ty Baribo from Philadelphia, Louis Montenot, big money DP signing, Sean Nealis, Caden Clark, Benteke's out the door. Philadelphia have lost Baribo. They've lost Kai Wagner. They've lost Jacob Glesnes. They've lost Mikel Ure. Just a lot of changes in Philadelphia. I mean, they brought in some players on bargained contracts, but that's the one I'm looking to see, because these are two teams that last season were at either end of the Eastern Conference table and now might sit together towards the bottom.
Yeah, I'm still not 100% sure what the long-term plan is with Philadelphia. There's been a few teams that seem to be doing a fire sale recently. Maybe they're going to make a big addition before the end of the window. Maybe they're confident in what they have, but it's going to be a fascinating one to see for sure.
All right, Joe, we're going to finish off the show with our favorite segment, or my favorite segment, is making a case for and against. As usual, I'm going to let you have the floor first. We're still picking players we think should make the U.S. men's national team roster. I have some opinions. Joe has some opinions. Eventually, we're going to get into players we do not think should make the team, but we're still in our positivity era. Joe and I, for a fifth straight week, do not have the same player, thankfully. Joe, I know you have a defender. Is it it's not a center back this week. Is it a right back?
No, it's someone that can play in a variety of roles, center back mostly, but it's someone who I raved about a lot last year, from a team I raved a lot about last year, who won MLS Defender of the Year last year, but doesn't seem to really have carved his way into the US team, and that is Tristan Blackmon, Vancouver Whitecaps defender.
Staying in Vancouver.
Staying in Vancouver. That's the thing. This guy was, subject to heavy interest into Miami, as a lot of the top talents are. They went for Boanga, they went for Blackmon. That should be appraisal in itself. But he's a long-time MLS player. He's 29. He's only made 2 appearances for the US. They were both last year, at the start of the year when things weren't going too well. They played Korea and Japan. It was quite a tough little break, and he was injured, so he missed out on future selections. But I feel like he's really hit his peak, and not everyone's career accelerates at the same rate. It's not like he burst onto the scene as a youngster, as a young Mika Richards would say. This was, a 29-year-old who is now looking amazing, was in MLS Best 11, MLS All-Star, the best defender in the entire league. And last year was by far his best season. He scored 2 goals in 25 MLS games. He actually scored 5 in all competitions. So he's shown that he has that ability to score, mainly from set pieces, but, he's versatile wherever he needs to go. And I just think if he's playing this well at the moment and he can continue that into the start of next season, just because we've highlighted, obviously, broken record, but the defense and those 2 midfield spots being a little bit of a concern for depth. He may not have played in the past. This may be his first World Cup, but if someone's literally the best defender in MLS and continues that form, I feel like they have to be involved.
There's going to be some MLS center back who makes the team. It's either Miles Robinson, maybe it's Nathan Harriel, could be Blackman. Zimmerman has been the one that's been there for many, many years, had been in the team, but he's been out recently. I mean, there's not an MLS-based manager currently, but Poch has talked up the MLS as a league. It'll be interesting to see which one he picks. I mean, I think Robinson's in the lead right now, but a strong start for Blackman. And if he gets into a camp or two, I think he could be the representative.
I hope so. I think he deserves it. Obviously, it depends on how he starts the season. If it was, he's been playing consistently for years, like LAFC and then to Vancouver, basically played every minute for the last 4 seasons, other than last year when he did pick up a bit of an injury. But I just feel like he deserves it. And of course, if it is a one kind of season high and he does fall off a little bit next year, which I really hope he doesn't, I don't expect him to, then sure, he doesn't go. But if he continues that form, I feel like you have to play the players play the players who are performing. Yeah,
I think that's a good point. It's going to be interesting to see how the center back room turns out because neither of us have any idea. And as we always say, center back's probably the hardest position on the pitch to assign value, skill, and scout. I'm on the opposite end of the pitch. I'm on the wing. I'm looking at a 27-year-old named Alejandro Zendejas, who has 13 caps for the U.S. men's national team. He's someone I brought up before. He is the second-born Mexican player who has caps for the Mexican national team to have played for the U.S. He's the 6th player to have played both for the U.S. men's national team and Mexican national teams. He had his one-time switch at the beginning of 2023. He's a player who was in the Dallas Academy as a teenager, but moved to Mexico shortly after. He's been playing for Club America since 2021. He has 8 goal involvements this year in the league in the Apertura, not the Clausura. You know Liga MX better than I do. In 10 starts this year, he had 16 goal involvements in 24 last season. Helped Club America win the league in the 2023-24 campaign. He's 13 caps for the U.S. men's national team. He kind of broke through at the Gold Cup in 2023 when he was kind of like their fulcrum creator. They had Jesus Ferreira through the middle of that tournament, and Zendejas kind of did everything else on the wing. He has 2 goals for the U.S. So far. He was just named his first time to Liga MX All-Stars. His team crashed out in the quarterfinals, but don't blame him. Zendejas played very well. He scored in the second leg, but it wasn't enough. Club America lost to Monterrey 3-2 on aggregate. You'll never believe who scored the winning goal for Monterrey. Do you know?
Just recently, sorry?
It was last year in the quarterfinals of the Liga Apertura playoffs. Zendejas scored the first and 2-1 in the second leg, but then Herman Berterame, now of Inter Miami, scored the winner to send Monterrey through to the next round. Zendejas is a winger's winger. Very, very good player, in my opinion. The U.S., now we talked about there up front, it's going to be Pulisic and McKennie, ideally tucked inside a little narrowly behind whatever striker's playing, but there is going to be a need for variety in those attacking options. A lot of the other U.S. attack forward options are those strikers we've talked about, or it's players like Malik Tillman, Gio Reyna, Diego Luna, who are not really wide players. These are more central players who can kind of play as an inside 10 or as an inside forward, but might not be tasked or up to the challenge of playing in a wide role. And if you want someone to preside with, Zendejas, who's a left-footed right winger, is my choice for that pick of just, again, a diversity option in terms of this is a different profile that's in the pool. Tim Weah is kind of the only other player like this, but he's a right-footed right winger. And again, if you want someone with the opposite foot, if you want a left footer, I think Zendejas is the choice.
I don't mind the shout at all. I think he's been really consistent in the last few seasons. I can't say I've watched as much Liga MX as I once did, but looking at the stats, like the consistency is impressive. And as we've seen in the CONCACAF Champions Cup and obviously Leagues Cup ties, Liga MX is very competitive. Some would say better than MLS. So you have to give him credit for that, for the fact that he's posting these numbers. Not saying I believe that, but just saying it's out there. And also, I think MLS has its own style. We always implore a lot of players to go and expand in Europe. Spain is a little bit obviously similar to how the Mexican ones played, but the Mexican league is kind of played with a South American style. And having a player that is suited to that, I think where it suits. I know obviously we're only talking in very specific examples here, but let's say the US does, face a South American team. He'll be equipped and kind of know how to deal with that and be used to it. I mean, they have Paraguay in the group. I know that it's similar kind of style there. I don't mind it. I like alternatives, and the fact that he's performing over there and was bought, I think, for a really cheap fee a few years ago and has obviously outweighed his value should be recognised. And the fact he made the switch as well should be another nod to him.
Exactly. Hopefully reward that switch with a spot at the World Cup, but we'll see. Just one more thing to note, who he lined up aside last season at Club America was Alain Saint-Maximin, formerly of Newcastle United. Just a funny player who's made his way around the world in a variety of leagues. Anyway, we're going to very quickly conclude with a bit of World Cup news, just because we like to keep the ball rolling. Tell us what you have about Sepp Blatter, Joe.
Yeah, we've got a FIFA president scrap on our hands, supposedly. Obviously, Gianni Infantino is the current president. It's been very closely tied with Trump. And as much as we're all trying to get excited for the World Cup, unfortunately, there's a lot of negative news around the tickets and the state of the nation itself at the moment, in terms of visas being frozen and ice being everywhere, and not in terms of on the ground, although literally as well. But, the enforcement agents, it's a bit of a mess. But former and disgraced FIFA president Sepp Blatter has actually agreed with a Swiss attorney saying that fans should boycott the World Cup and avoid going to the US at all costs. Pretty damning statement. Just Mark Peeth is a Swiss attorney who specializes in white-collar crime and is an anti-corruption expert. So I'm sure he had an interesting view of Sepp Blatter himself. But he said, if we consider everything we've discussed, there's only one piece of advice for fans: stay away from the USA. You'll see it on TV better anyway. He even said quite harshly, upon arrival, fans should expect that if they don't please the officials, they'll be put on the next flight home if they're lucky. And Sepp Blatter tweeted about this, or X'd, or whatever you say nowadays. For the fans, there's only one piece of advice: stay away. I think Mark Peeth is right to question the World Cup. So pretty damning from him. It's a difficult and weird time at the moment, but I'm sure the World Cup will be a great success. But to have the former FIFA president make a statement like that is pretty up there.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, he has no interest at this point. I think Sepp Blatter actually might, in terms of like defending his own honor and legacy, which was so tarnished by that 2015 scandal. But is anyone going to listen to Sepp Blatter? Really? That's my question.
Absolutely not. Given, he was very high profile, called out for his dealings and stuff with FIFA. I'm not going to go into that now, out of risk of getting the wrong information, but go and search it up. It is a fascinating case. So, yeah, it's interesting for him to chime in on something and try and come across as, morally right and ethical when he wasn't. But, yeah, it's an interesting one. I think, obviously, the nation is we'll see what state we're in come the World Cup, but I'm sure the product will be fine.
Look, after the Super Bowl, the US, I think, is going to turn into full World Cup mode. It's going to be interesting to follow.
Yeah, no, I think once that's done, and obviously there's the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup, which it seems only I care about here, even being a Toronto fan, which is funny. But yeah, once that's kind of out of the way, and then we're building up to the World Cup, especially after the Super Bowl, you're right. I think the emphasis is really going to shift, and I'm really excited to see how that goes.
That just about wraps it up for this week's All Out Soccer. He's been Joe McBride. I've been Jeremy Goldstein. We hope you can join us again on the next episode. Or, as Thomas Muller would say, Auf Wiedersehen. See ya.